Welcome to Tzu Chi This Week. I'm Mary Lee. It's good to have you with us. Coming up in this week's top stories, Australia Tzu Chi volunteers return to Blue Mountains for a third aid distribution. We meet China Tzu Chi volunteer Luo Wenjun, who was once a recipient of Tzu Chi's aid but now gives back to society. Finally, in Canada, Tzu Chi volunteers continue to provide food for needy students at Byrne Creek Secondary School in Burnaby. We start today's show in Australia. In October 2013, the Blue Mountains area in New South Wales suffered a forest fire that destroyed over 200 houses. Tzu Chi had previously held 2 aid distributions for disaster survivors. However, as some residents had temporarily relocated out of the region, a few were unable to receive the much-needed assistance. Thus, Sydney Tzu Chi volunteers once again returned to hand cash cards and blankets to 12 households. Blackened walls and debris are all that's left of owner Nado Galuzi's auto repair shop. Showing Sydney Tzu Chi volunteers what remains of his father's legacy, Galuzi gets choked up.
Only for my father, that's all. Yeah. It's all this go. We said like he's not here. And now we go here, we find this tool, that tool. Oh, this is a long time, you know. Old memories. Yeah. I'm sorry.
The 2013 October fire in Blue Mountains area of Australia's New South Wales left over 200 households without roofs over their heads. Tzu Chi volunteers held 2 relief distributions at the end of November and early December. However, because some residents had temporarily moved away, they were not able to receive Tzu Chi's assistance. Thus, a return visit was conducted at the end of December.
We hope they can use this money to purchase the items they need.
I'm almost speechless, but I will say some more. But it just reinstills your faith in mankind, that there are people out there with such kind hearts. So thank you so much.
This is the 3rd visit Tzu Chi volunteers have made to the Blue Mountains area. And this time, volunteers brought not only their care and blessings, but also bamboo coin banks to share.
So you can do that every morning, like put 5 cents in, make a good wish for yourself, for your family, for your nation. When you fill up, you can either give it back to us, or we'll come back to you anyway. And then, or you can give it to any charity that you think need the money. So we have to try and do good deeds. Yes. And you are looking at your mother, that is a very good deed, okay? So the more you look after her, the more blessing you will get, all right? Yes. That's the idea.
In saying farewell to 2013, local residents from Blue Mountains are comforted in knowing Tzu Chi will be by their side in welcoming 2014. As part of their continuing care for Hurricane Sandy survivors in the United States, New York Tzu Chi volunteers once again visited Coney Island in Brooklyn. There, they visited care recipients who were mostly illegal immigrants from Pakistan, and the aid distribution of cash cards and the bamboo coin bank campaign was a welcoming beginning for the new year ahead.
On the last day of 2013, New York Business Journal came up with an article remembering the calamity that was Hurricane Sandy.
Hello. I'm trying every day, just taking one day at a time. Thank the Lord, I'm still alive, you know.
Following Hurricane Sandy, June has been unable to get a stable job. Despite the difficult times, June remains grateful for Tzu Chi's emotional support and insists on donating her bamboo bank in return.
I feel appreciated that somebody remembered me, you know. I felt good.
In the basement of this house lives a single mom from Pakistan and her 2 children, unable to work and not qualified for government subsidies because of her illegal status. Times are tough. To help, volunteers bring 2 $50 cash cards. While this family of 4 has seen their already stretched finances get worse following the devastation of Hurricane Sandy.
Doesn't want to give you
Despite being Tzu Chi's care recipients themselves, each family, however, is inspired to give a little of their love to help those in greater need.
Next, we meet Luo Wenjun from Shenzhen, China, who was once a recipient of Tzu Chi's love and now is giving his assistance whenever needed. In March of 2013, his wife passed away from a stroke, leaving Luo to take care of their 2-year-old daughter. Unprepared to be a single father, Luo was at a loss. With the help of a public welfare organization, Luo was put in touch with Tzu Chi. Since then, Tzu Chi volunteers have become this family's pillar of support. In gratitude, Luo practices recycling after work each day at the Tzu Chi office. We also meet the media volunteers who recorded Luo's story so as to inspire more people who are in need of comfort and support.
A home without its lady of the house appears more disorderly, while a child without a mother has a father in a spin. In March 2013, Luo Wenjun's wife passed away from a stroke, leaving her husband and daughter with no one but each other. While Luo himself suffers from kidney stones, despite his pain, he nevertheless puts up a strong front for his 2-year-old daughter. Being a bus driver, at times Luo takes his daughter to work. Fortunately, he has very understanding colleagues.
Bringing his daughter to work is an inevitable option for him.
Unable to deal with the pain of losing his wife, Luo once thought about ending his life. It was his daughter that gave him the courage to carry on living.
Sometimes it's difficult, I won't lie, but all the hardship is bittersweet.
With help always by his side, apart from his co-workers, Tzu Chi volunteers are his greatest pillar of support.
Sometimes she is here with her father at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Today her father called to say that he dropped her off at the bus station and asked us to look after her.
Each day after work, Luo arrives at the Tzu Chi office to practice recycling, and now the father and daughter pair have found their second home. Today, Luo has been assigned the morning shift. It's only 5 a.m. and he is already heading off to work, and accompanying him to capture his story is Li Hongpo.
He has this positive and optimistic energy. By putting his story together, we hope to inspire and encourage others.
Responsible for writing the transcript, Gao Yuting sees life through Luo's eyes.
Every time we work on a story, although it means we have to wake up early, we learn a lot in the process.
6 months ago, Li Hongpo began to devote himself to Tzu Chi's media work. But that's not all he does. He's even an onstage volunteer in a sutra performance.
We have to seize the moment and fulfill our duties, whether it is on stage or behind the scenes.
Believing that the more one does, the more one will reap, especially while young, Tzu Chi's media team is made up of a group of young bloods who well know that to give is a blessing.
First, you need to share the same view and identify with Tzu Chi's humanitarianism. That way, the Dharma will find its way into your heart and the scenes you capture.
It is this gush of positive energy which is sure to make our world a more beautiful place.
Tzu Chi's winter aid distribution continues in Gansu Province, China, and on the 4th day, volunteers arrived in Laiyao Tzu Chi village. Originally from the Ruoli area, villagers' lives have changed since moving down the mountain to Tzu Chi's newly built housings. The whole village has also integrated Tzu Chi's spirit with many of the residents, donating to their bamboo coin banks and others, forming a service team to do recycling.
Tzu Chi volunteers arrive in Laiyao Tzu Chi village, spreading the Jingsi aphorism ideals. Since moving down from Ruoli 2 years ago, villagers reminisce on how much more convenient their lives have become.
路多远呢？
路吧，路有几里路的，也有10几里路的，看一回医生啊，这儿方便。
This villager's grandchild was born here, so seeing the doctor is very convenient. Laiao Tzu Chi village was intentionally built next to a national highway. By bus, it takes villagers only an hour to get to the nearest city, whereas before it used to take them over a day. Furthermore, with the continual droughts in the mountains, villagers' crops could never be harvested. Now in the new village, crops flourish, transportation is convenient, and job opportunities have increased.
以前你多久会到县城一次啊？
以前2-3个月一次哦，县城啊。
那现在？
哦，现在有时间2-3天一次。
28 volunteers form a service team, cleaning up the village once every week and recycling their resources.
The brothers and sisters helped us build this new village. We must follow their instructions on taking care of our surroundings and maintaining the Tzu Chi culture.
Seeing volunteers, villagers happily hand over their bamboo coin banks to help others in need.
来以后我就天天投。哦，天天投，所以你当时是我们新春进来的时候你就开始投了。哦，你上次也捐过一次了，对不对？这是第几次啦？ 第2次。哦， 第2次捐了啊。
In Laiao Tzu Chi village, every household has 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a bathroom. There is even a separate place to house livestock. Overall, villagers' living conditions have greatly improved, and they live here safely and happily, all thanks to Tzu Chi.
A look back at year-end festivities in Thailand. When floods struck Ban Plap Township in Ayutthaya Province 2 years ago, Tzu Chi volunteers made their way around damaged roads into disaster sites. Touched by the volunteers' care, many locals have turned into blue and white uniformed angels themselves. Recently, volunteers held a year-end blessing ceremony to reminisce about years past.
Preparing banquet ingredients and helping people out of their car, Thailand Tzu Chi volunteers in Ban Plap Township of Ayutthaya Province are holding a year-end blessing ceremony and aid distribution for their care recipients. Reminiscing on Tzu Chi's affinity with locals, in 2011, when floods hit Thailand, Tzu Chi volunteers braved the waters, bringing in hot food for disaster survivors. In 7 days' time, the care Tzu Chi volunteers provided touched the hearts of countless residents. For example, Wana, inspiring her to join the Tzu Chi family.
At that time, we were counting on ourselves to keep our lives going. No one had the chance to come in and help us because the disaster sites were so complicated. Many roads had been washed away by the flood.
After the disaster, Tzu Chi volunteers have continued their care for locals, traveling an hour by car from Bangkok, not only to hold volunteer training seminars, but also to help residents like Sem, who would not have received cataract surgery due to his financial situation if it were not for Tzu Chi's help.
This money is for Tzu Chi to help others because a lot of people are worse off than I am, such as the Filipino disaster survivors or others living in more difficult situations. I hope this love can truly help them.
Residents who joined Tzu Chi after the flood began helping the poor and initiating recycling efforts within the township. By realizing the hardships others are experiencing through home visitations, local volunteers like Wana are once again reminded of their blessings.
I feel like my life has changed. In the past, I never had the opportunity to help others. However, after becoming a Tzu Chi volunteer, I'm now able to put forth my energy in helping my community and fellow villagers.
Though the floodwaters have receded, they have allowed the seeds of love in locals' hearts to flourish and have implanted Tzu Chi's affinity with residents, an affinity that will last for centuries to come.
In Canada, Burnaby Tzu Chi volunteers have been providing needy students of the Byrne Creek Secondary School with nutritious breakfasts twice a week. With the encouragement of the school staff, volunteers decided to participate in the Gift Basket program launched by the school, a program that provides needy families with daily necessities and food.
Since 2012, Burnaby Tzu Chi volunteers in Canada have been providing free breakfast to needy students at the Byrne Creek Secondary School twice a week. During that time, volunteers discovered that there are nearly 100 students who come from refugee families. 7 years ago, the Byrne Creek Secondary School launched the Gift Basket program. Thanks to the sponsorship of kind-hearted individuals and charity organizations, underprivileged families can now receive much-needed daily necessities. Other than sponsoring the program, the volunteers also personally purchased the daily necessities and food for the families. Other than daily necessities and food, the volunteers also thoughtfully prepare some special gifts.
We will be providing the recipients with gifts. I think the children will be very happy because they usually don't have a chance to eat such treats.
Despite the cold weather, the volunteers personally deliver the gift baskets to recipients, and attached to each basket are printed Jingsi aphorisms.
It was great to meet this family. During the home visitation, we promised them that we will come back again. Tzu Chi volunteers will always be there for those living on the fringes of society.
Thanks to volunteers' visit, many needy families can finally pass the winter on a full stomach.
Also taking place in the Greater Vancouver area in Coquitlam, Canada, due to a large immigrant population, the government has funded training at a learning center to improve immigrants' English. As community service is part of the program, for the third year this year, recently the teachers brought 17 students to participate in Tzu Chi's food distribution.
At Coquitlam's Food Bank, these English Learning Center students begin preparing ingredients and cooking dishes. The dishes combined will be given to the needy to satisfy their hunger.
你们今天做的快乐吗？快乐呀！快乐啊！那你们从中学到些什么呢？
All done. 帮助别人的同时，自己也学到了很多，感到心里边很满足。
With some volunteers in the kitchen and others outside, everyone works together to hold a successful event.
By helping the poor, Canada will become more stable. Canada is great.
Coming to Canada, immigrants did not know how to assimilate into the local culture. Nevertheless, through partaking in community service, this problem has now been resolved.
Volunteering is something I've always wanted to do. I'm happy that my teacher brought us here to do community service. Also, seeing so many Tzu Chi brothers and sisters makes me feel at home.
We're always looking for voluntary opportunities because they're new to Canada and they may have no work experience, but volunteer experience is really good for them.
Washing dishes is an immigrant from Korea who used to be a mother's boy.
Just my first time here. I feeling it's good.
It is good to help people. There's so many people who are in need. They need food. So it is a great place to help each other.
Putting aside their ethnic differences, these immigrants work together to feed 180 people, bringing not only satisfaction to their stomachs, but also smiles to their faces.
Hong Kong Tzu Chi volunteers have periodically invited students and teachers of the Hong Kong International School to a local recycling station, where they get hands-on practice in sorting recyclables and learn to cherish the world's limited resources. Flattening PET bottles, students of the Hong Kong International School experience firsthand the process of recycling. Through some hands-on practice, the youngsters learn that rubbish can actually be turned into gold.
I think this is really fun. I mean, I had never done this before, but this is actually really exciting for me. Yeah, especially for a first time. And yeah, I just really feel like I can make a change now, you know, in the world.
Here at the Hong Kong's Zhe Yuchong Recycling Station, since Earth Day 2011, Tzu Chi volunteers have periodically invited the school students and teachers to get some hands-on recycling experience.
Students can come and actually
quite easily plug in. That's why this is, I think, a great program, and why I'll continue to bring students back here because they can actually do something. In a couple hours, they can achieve something.
I feel like our generation has wasted many resources. We need to change before it's too late. So we need to take the responsibility to protect our environment and do recycling ourselves.
Countless students have learned a valuable lesson on the field trip, like Gao Jiaquan, who last year invited his friends to do recycling as a way to celebrate his birthday, while this year he has continued in his efforts in safeguarding the environment.
Before I thought rubbish would just be gone after I threw it away. However, here I see so many wasted yet still useful items. It makes me think that we should work together to practice recycling and give these items a second lease on life.
Through the hands-on practice of recycling, hopefully these youngsters can gain a better understanding of recycling and take action to make the world a better place.
Despite short in length, Tzu Chi's Jing Si aphorisms bring both peace of mind and calmness to everyone that reads it. That is why Tzu Chi volunteers in New Taipei City have thought to bring the aphorisms into local police stations and hotels, giving stressed officers and herd travelers a moment of ease in their chaotic lives.
As the year comes to an end, Tzu Chi volunteers are sending their blessings in the form of these hand-drawn cards. However, what attracts recipients' attention on the card is not the artwork, but rather the Jing Si aphorism.
In many situations, these words help you open your heart and resolve any negative feelings you had prior.
Volunteers not only brought happiness into the police station, but also offered loving reminders about officers' health.
Thank you, Tzu Chi brothers and sisters, for reminding us that if we notice a change in our body, we must face that pain and seek help.
Because they're so short, the Jing Si aphorisms are easy to understand.
Aside from police officers, hotel managers are also eager to incorporate these good words into their rooms, offering guests a place to rest their spirits.
This book of Jing Si aphorisms is really great. I want my guests who come from various countries to read this book and take it with them to share all around the world.
There's a Chinese, English, and even a Japanese version, so people all around the globe who stayed at this hotel can understand the content within these aphorisms.
As guests return home, these words of wisdom stay with them and spread to their countries, eventually to cover all corners of the world.
We go to the Philippines at the end of the show. Due to flight delays, some Taiwanese Tzu Chi volunteers were unable to get on a flight home before the start of the new year. Thus, they spent the holiday at Tzu Chi volunteer Li Wei Song's house. The next day, everyone paid homage by making a pilgrimage to pray for blessings for the Philippines. We will leave you with these images. Thank you for watching. See you next week.